Good afternoon, everyone. I am David Bowman. I am the Executive Director of the Four Corners Regional Education Cooperative #1 up here in Farmington. This is surprisingly, I was just looking at our list of sessions, this is actually our 15th Tech Bits session, but it's the first one of the year. I'll provide the link here in a little bit if you want to go back and see all the recordings of all the other sessions that we did during the last school year. I did 14, and I had a couple of other folks do some sessions as well. And I think mine are pretty good, but I'll tell you, the ones that other folks produced have got a lot of really good stuff in them. But today I thought, let's just go back to some of that most basic stuff. Interacting with a lot of people and doing a lot of sort of tech support on the side because people call like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? We always seem to run into issues around where is everything, right? Where are you saving stuff? And, God forbid, but it happens. Now I've got 4 versions of something and they're all filed in different places, and it happens. So I thought, let's look at some strategies, some of the techniques, some of the thinking behind file management, and some tips and tricks. So we're going to do this in kind of 3 phases. Phase 1 is going to be about how do you just create the places to put your stuff so it makes sense. The second is how do you then get items into the correct places. And the third phase, assuming we have time, and I think we will, has to do with downloading, because I know a lot of people run into problems when they're getting stuff off their email or they're getting it off the internet, and where is it and how do I know where to put it? So we're going to look at some strategies for that also. So with that being said, I'm going to just share my whole screen. I spent a little time, make sure there's nothing weird or private on there, because we're going to do a lot of stuff with File Manager and filing systems and so forth. So I'm going to just show you everything. So let me do that. All right, so let's just share the whole darn thing. So this is going to be a couple of caveats. This is going to be sort of a back and forth between what you consider like official presentation, PowerPoint slides and so on, and just some work on the computer itself, back and forth. The second caveat is I have no idea how long this presentation takes. We won't go for more than an hour. I will cut myself off. We might go a little less. We just don't know, but I'm going to try my very best to make it all useful. And when I run out of useful stuff, I'll stop. All right, so basic file management. So the first concept, and the overall concept, is we have these things called folders, right? I don't know how many people I have seen where their desktop is just full of just files, or their My Docs folder is just full of files and files and files and files. And there's not really any grouping or categorization of it, but that's the role of our folders, is to create these boxes, as I like to call them, and then we stick all of our stuff in them according to the type of box. What's the nature of the box? So, is it files? Is it contracts? Is it student information? Is it employee information? We create these large blocks, these large boxes, and then we can put boxes inside of the boxes to further refine our categorization. What we're trying to get to is something that makes intuitive sense. So even if you don't know where something is, you can look at your titles of your folders, say, oh, it's about that. Then you've got other folders, oh, it's about that. And you can lead yourself intuitively to the correct place. So there's lots of different types of folders, and really it's going to depend on what do you do and what are you doing on your computer, right? But the overall concept, and we'll talk about how to do it in a moment, but the overall concept is to create a filing organization system that goes from very broad categories and then slowly refines itself down to narrow categories. And as kind of my own rule of thumb, if I've got 3 or 4 things on the same topic or the same general concept or idea, I'm going to create a folder and stick them in there. Because like a lot of people, I do a ton of stuff on my computer. And if I don't limit myself to like, okay, I've got 3 or 4 things and I don't start grouping them together, pretty soon I don't have 3 or 4 files. I've got 30 or 40 files, and then I've got to find the right one. So, for example, this presentation lives on my computer, right? It's saved on there. How do I get to it? Well, I've got my desktop, which is the biggest box of all. And then on that, I've got a folder called Documents. And then I've got my REC work. And then I've got IGAs, which are intergovernmental agreements. And inside of that, I've got the tech initiative. And I've got this and this and this. It's a lot of folders because I got a lot of files, right? But it makes an intuitive sense on how to get there. So finally, I can lead myself to exactly where I'm supposed to be. So for example, here's my REC folder, and I'm pretty sure there's nothing going to be weird here. So here's my big REC, different projects, different functions of my job. And in there, I've got IGAs, and I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 5 different folders in there, including one for this particular project, Tech Initiative 24. And then I've got a bunch of folders in there on the different components of this project. This is part of TechBits, so I've got TechBits, and there's file management. And TechBits 2, I've got no idea what that's going to be, but it's going to be something eventually. And in here, I've got my notes, I've got my presentation, and I even have another subfolder, Images, which is all the pictures that I use to create this presentation. So the point is, even if I don't know off the top of my head where something is, I've created a structure that allows me to sort of follow the logical, intuitive chain so I can get exactly where I need to, and I don't have to wade through a lot of junk to get there. So boxes are your friend, folders are your friend, right? Because that's where you're creating your structure. So there's actually 4 ways to create a folder. We're going to do 3 of them now, and then 1 I will show you at a more appropriate time a little bit later on. The easiest ways are you create the folder by right-clicking on a white space in an existing folder and choose New Folder. Or there's a little icon up at the top of the window that you can click on. Or if you're like me, I tend to do a lot of stuff on my keyboard. I'm typing, I'm moving stuff around, I'm doing my keyboard. So there's actually a keyboard command also. So I'll demonstrate all that in just a second. But there's lots of ways to do it, depending on where are your hands at the moment, where's your mouse, where's your cursor, and so on. But the last thing I'm going to say about creating folders is if you just start creating folders and you don't name them, you've kind of defeated the purpose, right? Because what is new folder 2? What's in there? What's in new folder 3? So one of the things you want to make sure you do is name those folders so they make sense. So instead of 1, 2, 3, and 4, I actually have a label that's going to indicate what's inside. And I have to be very conscientious and self-disciplined that when I'm saving something, I'm going to put it in the folder that makes sense and not just stick everything up. The only time I put stuff on my desktop is if I'm not sure where to save it yet, or it's temporary. There are a few things on my desktop. I'll just show you. Why not? You see, I don't have a lot of stuff on my desktop, which is strange because if anybody has seen my desk, my computer setup, I have a really big monitor. This is 42 inches across, right? So I have room for a lot of crap. But then I've got to hunt for everything. So you'll see there's only a handful of things. I think I've only got 1, 2 files on there. One of them is a management tool that gets me directly to other files, and one is just some temporary notes that I've got, and then a handful of folders, right? Because everything is filed away. So let's do that. So one strategy, here's a temporary folder called xtemp, and I have no idea why I named it that, but it made a lot of sense at the time. So the one simple thing to do is I can just take my cursor, which is right there blinking. I can right click, new, and then I can choose folder. And now I've got, in this case, new folder number 2. You'll notice when I create a new folder, it comes up with the title already highlighted, which means if I don't click away, I can just start typing and give it a name right away. A folder of ugly cats. Okay. So right away, when I create it, I can name it. Now, every time I go get a picture of ugly cats, I've got a place to put it. So that's one way. Right click anywhere on the blank area, go to new folder, and there it is. But Windows has given us a little shortcut to do this also, which is pretty cool. Up in the far left corner of this window is a little button that looks like a folder. And I can simply click on it, and I've got a new folder, which I can again name Cute Dogs. So there's 2 ways. But you'll notice that in both of these cases, it's only going to create the folder inside whatever folder I'm already at. If I want to create it somewhere else, I'm going to have to go find first the biggest box necessary, right? I'm going to have to go up my hierarchy in folders and find the appropriate place. Or what I can often do actually is, let me just close that. There's my documents, there's my REC. If I want it in my documents, then I need to open up that one, because whenever I create a new folder, it's only going to put it in the existing folder. It'll put it inside as a subfolder. So there's my NMREC, there's my IGAs again, and I can work myself down to find the appropriate place. Tech Initiative 24, Tech Bits, and let's put one in here using the third method. If I'm typing away, maybe I just want to use my fingers. If I do Control, Shift, and N together, by golly, there is a new folder, Goldfish. Now, one thing that is kind of handy, a handy little trick, you can always go back and rename those folders if you need to. I can right-click on it, and I can come down to rename and call it something else, Parrots. Or very simply, let's say I've got a new folder here, and Bob Jones. Okay, whatever. Or I can click a single time on the title, pause, and then click again on the title, and once again, it's highlighted. Mary Prairie. Not sure how to spell contrary. So there's a couple ways to rename. I can right click on it, choose rename, or I can click once. So it highlights it, and then click again, and I can rename it that way. The point is, I want to make sure that my folders are an accurate description of the category of files inside of them. Because if I don't do that, then I don't have a way to intuitively and easily find what I'm looking for. So as you can well imagine, just what I do, considering what I do, and then all the home stuff and private stuff, I have got a lot of files on here. And I think the last time I counted, which was about, I don't know, 3 months ago, I was doing some cleanup. I had something like 15,000 files on here. Now, just imagine if I was sticking them all into my docs, right? There would be literally no way to find anything. But because I've got a folder structure, and because I am adamant about filing things away, I can find any one of them that I need pretty easily. All right, so that's creating folders. Now, one big question is, well, what if you have stuff in the wrong folder? How do you get it into the correct folder? There's a couple of ways to do that. Let me come back to my Xtemps over here. So, and let me drop something inside of new folder. There's a sample and a sample. So let's say I've got a brand new Word document. This is a brand spanking new Word. Maybe I'll capitalize it. Document. Okay. And I save it in the wrong place. So let's say I put this, and we'll talk about this part of the feature in just a moment. Let's say I put it in the wrong folder, and I'm going to give it a title. Sample file. Okay. Uh-oh. It's in the wrong place. How do I get folders from one place to another? And there's a couple of very easy ways to do this. Some will work better in some cases, some in other cases, whatever works best for you. But there's a couple ways to do it. So let me come back up here to my folders. So over here, you see I've got, there it is, sample file. I want to take it from this folder and put it into a different folder where it belongs. There's two ways to do it. And honestly, they're both pretty simple. One very easy way is to simply drag it from one place to another. And let me minimize some stuff so it's a little easier to see what I'm talking about. Okay. So here I've got my folder, and it has the file in the wrong place. I want this to go into a different folder. The easiest thing to do is to simply have two folders open. There's the folder on the right-hand side where the file is, and I want to put it in the folder on the left-hand side. So one of the easiest ways to do that is just get both of them open and then drag it from one to the other. And I can easily move folders that way. There are some rare cases where I really do want a file in two locations. And I'm going to show you a better way to do this in a moment. But sometimes you want, I don't know why you would, but you want something in two different locations. So if I just drag left click and drag it over, it moves from one folder to the other. But if I want it in both, I'm not going to left click. What I'm going to do is right click and drag. Not left click, but right click. And now I've got a little menu that says copy here, move here, create shortcut, or cancel. And I can say copy it. And now I have that same file in two different locations. But here's the risk. If you decide you're going to make some changes, some updates, do something to that file, you now have two versions of the file with the same name. And you run the risk later of grabbing the wrong one. So you can do it, but be very, very careful, right? Because you don't want to have, it looks like the same document, but they have different content inside of them. That is a huge problem. And I've seen it, I don't know how many times where somebody's like, I made all my changes. Where are they? And it turns out they have another file in a different place with the same name, and it has different content in it. Now you've got two versions. That's a problem. Let's get rid of one of these. I'm going to show you a much better way to do that in a moment. Okay. So that's one way. You can just drag things around. The other way to do it, over here on the right-hand side, I've got my sample file selected. I can say cut. I can cut it from one, paste it somewhere else. So I can right-click and say cut. And then I go to my target. You know, maybe it's up, maybe it's down, wherever it is. Maybe it's a different folder altogether. I can right-click and I can paste it. It's a few extra steps than just doing this. But the advantage of that is if I only have one folder open, like if I were working on a laptop, for example, I don't have this huge screen in front of me with enough room for multiple folders. Well, I can cut it from here. I can move to the appropriate place. I can use my file structure. I can move around, get to a different place. And let's see, I want to go all the way up to here. And then when I'm in the correct folder, right click, paste, and there it is. So the nice thing about that right click is you get that little menu with some options on it, or you can just shortcut it. Click on it once to select it, Control X for cut, go to the correct place, which will be somewhere else, here, 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 and then, so Control X to cut it from one place, and when I'm at the target location, Control V to paste it in the new location. It's the same commands that we have for Excel and Word and PowerPoint and all those other applications. Control C to copy, Control X to cut, Control V to paste. So you've got some ways to move files around so that at the end, they are in a logical place. All right. So I promised a couple of shortcuts. So we did that. All right. I did that. One more way coming up when we save. Let's see. Did we do all of this? I kind of got ahead of myself, didn't I?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Drag and drop. We did that. Cut and paste. Control C, then Control V. We did that. So here's the big message, though, of all of that. Put them where they belong, or just get rid of them. If they're not worth filing away, if they don't have enough value to file and store in an appropriate place, then you probably don't need to keep them. Toss them in your trash. So here's a power tip for you. It's called shortcuts. And if you haven't used shortcuts, I would recommend giving it a try because it's going to simplify things greatly. So you saw when I wanted to get to the file for this presentation, I had to go through a lot of folders to get there. Or if I'm working in my docs folder and I've got a subfolder, 5-6 layers down, and I'm very often going there. Like I typically start here, but very frequently I need to get to this other place. Then consider making a shortcut, because what that'll allow you to do is jump directly from one place to another common place. So for example, I've got a folder, it's my docs folder, right? But I am very often, that's probably not the one I want. But I'm very often working currently in this tech initiative, okay, which, as we saw, is multiple layers down. So instead of having to go from this folder to a subfolder to a subfolder to a subfolder to a subfolder, I created a shortcut that'll just jump me there immediately. I don't know if you can see it, but down here it says New Mexico Tech Initiative. That's not the folder. It's a shortcut to get me to the folder. And it's going to drop me right there. Or I've got, let's see. So in my docs folder, I guess I don't have one here. So that'll be the example. So let me show you how to do that, because it's a neat power trick to help you get around your computer much more easily. And it's not too tough to do. So let's say I wanted to create a shortcut to my TechBits 1 Basics of File Management folder, which is this one right here. If we look, I've had to go through a lot of folders to get there, but I want an easy way to do it. Here's how we do it. So here's my folder, TechBits 1 File Management. I'm going to right click on it, which will give me my context menu. And you'll see that way down here is an item on the menu called Create Shortcut, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to do that. What it's going to do is it'll put a shortcut to the folder in the same folder, which is kind of worthless, right? Because I don't need the shortcut here. I just click on the folder itself, right? I don't need a shortcut to the folder. I'm already there. But I can use those techniques for moving things with my shortcuts also. So for example, I'm going to select my shortcut. I'm going to cut it from here, and I'm going to put it on my desktop right there. So now, instead of going through my file management structure to get there, I just have to activate my shortcut, and it's going to take me all the way there all at once. Huge, huge time saver. So that's one power tip. For example, let's see. Yeah, I've got another shortcut there. Okay, that'll work for me. So shortcut, and bang, I'm already there, down deep. Now, if I get to a point where I'm not using this folder much anymore, then I probably can get rid of the shortcut. And the nice thing is you can delete the shortcut, and it doesn't delete the folder. It just deletes your shortcut to the folder. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here it is right here in the middle. And are you sure you want to move this shortcut to the recycling bin? Yes, please. So the shortcut's now gone because I don't need it anymore. So that's power tip number one, how to make all this more manageable. Because as you can tell, I espouse having a lot of folders and a lot of subfolders. And sometimes it's just easier to bypass it all and go where I want to go. The second power tip, oh, I did that already. That's where you find it. Right click, create shortcut, move where you need it. All right. The second power tip is to use your address bar for moving around. So your address bar at the top of a menu, top of a window, looks like this. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you the path to the existing folder, to the current folder that's open. And the nice thing is there's some controls on here that make it easier to move around your file structure, your folder structure. There's a little arrow on the left-hand side. So wherever you were before, go back there. Whether you've gotten there by a shortcut or you've weeded through a bunch of folders or wherever you were immediately prior, go there again. So that's one. The second button here is to go to the upper folder. If we've got a subfolder up will take us to the folder that it lives in. So we think about our hierarchy. This is inside of this, is inside of this. It's going to go up to the next layer, up to the next level of your categorization. Okay, so that's pretty simple. But the trick that it seems a lot of people don't know is you can actually do things with the address itself. What this is showing me is my file structure. I have a folder called NMREC1. Inside of that is IGAs. Inside of that is the next one. Inside of that's the next one. I can simply click on one of those and go straight there, which is pretty cool. So if I'm in the TextBits folder and I click in my address bar on NMREC1, it will jump me immediately up to NMREC1. Or I can click on IGAs and it will move me up. Now this only goes in one direction, because what it's doing is, it's creating my outline of where everything is. So it can move me back up the path simply by clicking on the name. And that's your address bar. So if I am down here, way down here in TechBits 2 TBD, I can click up here on NMREC1, and it will jump me immediately to that point, or IGAs, whatever the case may be. Now I'm in NMREC1. So you've got some tools to make it simpler to move around within your file structure. So we go to TechBits. Now, depending on your display and how big you've got your window expanded and so forth, it might be a little tough to see all the titles in your address bar. So I've got images, TechBits 1, TechBits, and I know there's other stuff farther up. But right here, I've got some little arrows, and it will give me the path to my current location. Right there by whatever is showing up here, it will give me the path. And then I can simply select the one that I need, back up to NMREC1. So at the end of the day, what's the moral? Lots and lots and lots of folders, and there are some tools to help you navigate around them. Now, where are we? Okay, so that's power tip number 2. Just did it. So where people tend to get lost, though, is when they're saving stuff. You've got a new document, a new file or something open, and you need to save it, so you hit save, and you just click, you hit save, then you click OK, and then you wait, where did I put it? Where did I save it to? Oh no, right? I know I saved it, but I don't know where I saved it. So there's some techniques, some strategies. And it all starts with this. When you go to save something, you are going to get a window with your controls and all the tools you need to make sure you're saving in the correct place. The very first thing you need to look at, don't just hit save. Don't hit your enter button at this point. Take a look at what's in front of you. The first thing you're going to look at is, what is the current folder? Because that's where it's going to save to. Then I can use all those techniques that I just demonstrated on the address bar or on the file manager on the left, and I can make sure that I'm going to be in the right location. So first, check your location and make sure you're in the right one. If you need to, find the correct location. If the current location isn't correct, find the right place using your address bar, using the display on your right, or using your file manager on the left. Then, of course, you're going to name it, and then after you've got the right place and the right name, then you save it. I don't know why it is, but some people just kind of jump through this and just hit save. and then don't know where they've saved it to. And then they can't find it. So I promised that there's one more way to create folders, and I would do it at the appropriate time. This is the appropriate time. When you're in this menu right here, your save menu, you have a button called New Folder. So once you get to the right location, you can decide for yourself, do I need a new folder to put this in? Do I need a new category of files? And you can make it right here on the fly. You click New Folder, you give it a name, and then check your title and hit the Save button. So that's so pretty. I want to see that again. So if I'm saving, so what is this? So this is my notes for today's session, in case you want to know what the back end looks like. So I can go to my file menu, and just as an FYI before I forget, if it's brand new file, you can hit save or you can hit save as, it doesn't matter. If it is an existing file, you can just hit save and it will just save wherever it was. But if you want to do a save as, this file, new name, you can go to your file menu and say save as, or if you're on a Mac, or if you're on a PC, you can just hit the F12 button and it will automatically bring this up. It's a little shortcut. So instead of going up here to file and then going to save as, I can just simply hit F12, which kind of makes sense because I'm typing anyway. I'm working on my document, working on my file, bang, save as, and it brings me to this. So I've got my TechBits 1 file management, and I'm going to make a new folder. So I can click New Folder here, and I'm going to say Preparation Materials. And then I can double click on it. And now I can save into this new folder, this new subfolder that I've just created. Or I can go back up using my address bar or any of those other places and get me to the right spot. If I have shortcuts, they will show up here too. So lots and lots of ways to get around. But at the end of the day, everything is filed in a folder, and it's a folder with a name that accurately describes the content within it. I've got the right location. I found the right location. I've got Basics 2. I've got a title, and now I'm going to hit save. Now I know where it is, and I can get there intuitively. All right. So some different strategies for saving. All right, but I think actually the timing is pretty good. I'm a little impressed with myself, actually. So one of the places where people tend to lose stuff is when they're downloading. Grab something off the internet, download it. Where is it? If you haven't changed any of the settings on your computer, chances are it's in your downloads folder. And if you've ever tried to go and find your downloads folder, it is not easy. Both Macs and PCs bury that folder somewhere down in the deep recesses on the 7th level of your system. You know, it's in there, but it is buried. But there's a shortcut. There's an easy way to get there. So, and this will work for Firefox, which, hurrah, Firefox, world's best. Chrome, too intrusive, just saying, or Edge. And those are the only 3 browsers that I have access to. So I'm going to guess it will work for other browsers, but it will for sure work for these 3 browsers. You can just simply do Control J, or if you're a Mac user, Option J should do the same thing. So let me here's my Firefox. right here. I can do Control J, and there's all the stuff that's in my downloads folder. It will take me straight there. Or if I am in Google Chrome, here's my Google Chrome window, Control J, and it's going to give me the location. It's giving me my downloads folder. I've got nothing in there because I don't ever use this one, but this is my downloads folder, and I can open stuff. I can take it out. I can cut it from there, paste it somewhere else. I can save it. I can drag it, whatever I need to do. But that is the shortcut to my downloads folder. Now, let's try, what do we got next? Microsoft Edge. If I do Control J, here's my list of downloads that pops up right at the top. It's a little shortcut to the downloads folder, and I can find my downloads there. So that's the first trick. How to even get to your downloads, right? Now, when you first download something, you should get an icon on your screen to the top right or the bottom left that'll say, hey, here's your new download. Do you want to open it? And you say yes or no or whatever you want to say. But if you ever want to go back to your downloads, or you've moved away from there or something, and you're like, oh, I don't know where my downloads are. Well, then you do Control J, and you will go straight there. Now, most browsers in their menu will have something in their settings. So over here is my little menu, right? My little 3 lines, or maybe it has 3 dots, and I can go to downloads that way, and it will bring me to the same place. But it's basically just the Control J. This is Microsoft Edge. Over here in my menu, there's my downloads there, and you'll see the keyboard command Control J. The point is this: if you haven't changed any settings, by default, your stuff's going to go into your download folder. This is how you get back to your download folder. So here is power tip number 3. I keep saying if you haven't changed your settings, that's what's going to happen. But you might want to change your settings, your default location of where stuff's going to save, because why do you need stuff in your download folder in the first place, right? It should be in a folder on, in your documents or in some other location, right? Or, at a minimum, your desktop. So if something downloads, it's right there, then you can move it where you need to, right? So power tip number 3 is change your settings for your default download location. And it's pretty simple to do. So we'll start with my favorite, which is Firefox. I'm going to go over here to my menu, my little 3 lines, and I'm going to go to settings. And then I get all this stuff. Holy moly. But if I scroll through it, and I just sort of keep going, and I keep going, and I keep going, I've got one called Files and Applications, Save Files To. Now, when I'm going to save something, I can specify the location and the title and all that kind of stuff, or I can just hit save. And where's it going to go? And I can change where I want it to save. So this is Firefox, browse. I can choose a new default location, like my documents, for example, so that when I download and save, that's where it's going to go. It's not going to be buried in the deep recesses of Bill Gates' brain somewhere. So that's Firefox. This one is Microsoft Edge. There's my 3 little buttons up there. And here's my settings. It's not your default. Yeah, not now. Not ever. Okay. Profile, settings, cookies, permissions, default browser, downloads. Takes me to my downloads. Here we go. And I can choose my default location by saying change. Now, I will recommend this, and this is a strong recommendation. On this browser, you can say download and save automatically. Just download and save it. Or you can choose the option that says ask me what to do. Like, do you want to just open it right away? Do you want to just save it immediately? Or do you want to get that nice, beautiful save menu so you can choose the location for yourself? I strongly recommend activating ask me what to do with each download. And this is for Microsoft Edge. But regardless, here's location. Right now it's in C drive, users, D Bowman downloads, which is not acceptable to me. I'm going to change it. And just for the example, I'm going to say, just put it on the desktop. I'm going to choose desktop, select folder. So now when I save something, it'll automatically go to my desktop. And then finally with Google Chrome, it's very similar. There's my menu up top, my little 3 dots. Download settings. And in here, somewhere, downloads, here we go. It looks exactly the same. A location, ask me where to save. Don't just save it, ask me where to save it because I'm trying to stay organized. To varying degrees of success, but I'm trying as hard as I can. So just ask me where I want to save it to. I turn that on if I want to change the default. Right now it's defaulting to documents, which is fine for me. And I can change it if I need to. I say select folder, and now that becomes my default. So we've done 2 things. One is, how do you find your download folder if you got stuff there? And how do you select what is perhaps a more appropriate place to do your downloads? Let me just get rid of those browsers because I don't like them. Okay, so when you get the save, so now that I've said, ask me what to do, I'm going to get the option. Do you want to just open it? Or do I want to save it? I don't want to open everything. Sometimes I just want to save stuff. Or I don't want to save everything. Sometimes I just want to look at it. But the point is, because I selected that option, ask me what to do, now I can choose the appropriate action. And if I say save, it's going to bring me this menu right here, which we have seen before. I can rename it at this point. I can, and more importantly, I can choose the appropriate location within the structure I've created. And if I need more subfolders, I can just create them on the fly. And that's not too bad. We got to the end. And
well, he's pretty cute.
Yeah, that's actually a picture of me when I was 2.5.
Are you sure that's not Josephus?
I'm pretty sure. He's not that cute. Yeah, he's not my son. He's not that cute. So I did promise I would show you, if you want to go back and see what all the other videos are, that Excel and PowerPoint videos and Flip videos and Google Forms and a bunch of them. You can always access them on our website /TechBits. And we've got them all there. And if you're desperately curious, that page looks like this. And then you can choose the basic topic and see the video right there. Actually, that one's a good one. That's about creating word styles, text styles. So this is the place to go get them right here. Questions? Anything useful? Hopefully. Interesting, hopefully. At least entertaining, right? All right. Listen, the last thing I have to say, and I must say this, if at some point in the future you're doing one of these techniques or something, and you went, wait a minute, what did he say? You have some options. One is you can go to our TechBits page, and probably my guess is by the end of this week, this video will be on there. Okay. So you can always go back and look. But if you're like me, I just have one quick question or something. You are more than welcome to call me, or actually better yet, email me and say, hey, can I get a little refresher on this right here? Can you walk me through these things again? And we'll get a little time to do it. And I'd be very happy to help you, because I do know that I tend to do two things. I tend to go through things kind of quickly, and I tend to pack a lot of stuff into a short amount of time. So if you ever want me to go back, walk you through something again, I am 100% happy to do so. Just feel free to pop me an email. We'll set up a time, and I'll be glad to do it. So, if no questions, I'll just say thank you to everybody. We're going to have another session in October and mid-November, and I hope to see some of you all there. So, have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks.